You can kill me, but you will never destroy me. It takes strength to resist the dark side.
Throughout heaven and earth, I alone am the honored one.
Are you kidding? Why the hell should I wait for you?
I know what it's like to try and rebuild a life. I had a bad day too, once.
If you're having nightmares, then welcome to the club. My name's Subaru Natsuki, and I am the Knight of Amelia.
Right now, all I can give you is just death.
It wasn't for you in particular.
You fought 100 men because it's not in your nature to run away.
If you are feeling disheartened, that you are somehow not enough, set your heart ablaze.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to, well, whatever the show is. And tonight we're going to talk about, well, a lot of things. Obviously, I'm going to do my normal recap stuff that I do. And I'm also going to be talking about censorship, Johnny Somali, and maybe some other things, depending on how the night goes. But yes, there is a situation brewing with certain manga and doujin sites in Japan, particularly because card companies like Visa and MasterCard are threatening to not process any transactions for doujin unless they are censored. We're going to look a little bit into that tonight because there are a couple of articles to cover. There is also reports and statements from Japanese politicians themselves, like Ken Akamatsu, creator of one of the sites that in question, as well as the author of a couple of manga himself. That's the words I'm looking for. So there's that. Johnny Somali is now possibly facing the music for all his actions. And technically it has nothing to do with weebery, but I just don't like the guy, and I don't like nuisance streamers like him. So I do want to cover the fact that the dude finally might face some fucking justice for once in his life. Yeah, whole lot of enthusiasm. I get it, because the internet's been, well, elections happened, and I'm not going to take sides on my channel or on my show. I have my own personal beliefs, but those are my personal beliefs, and I guarantee you none of you people are here to listen to me blab about politics. That said, you are probably here to listen to me blab about anime. So, we're going to roll right into it tonight. And would you look at that? I actually have my notes up right off the bat. I came prepared this time. Oh, look at me. Look at me. So professional, guys. So professional. So this is where we left off last week. I consolidated a bunch of this stuff. Well, not consolidated. I readjusted this chart and brought some things down back a little bit closer to where they were, because I've removed some things from the list and it's a little bit less top heavy now. And we're going to go through. I didn't watch absolutely everything on this list. I still am not caught up on Demon Lord 2099. I still am not caught up on Orb, even though I did watch 2 episodes today. I am not caught up on Ranma. The site I was using for You Are Miss Servant accidentally posted a duplicate episode, so I didn't get to watch episode 6 before this. And I have not caught up with Blue Box this week either. So womp womp. I've missed out on a couple of them, but that's to be expected because you can't absolutely watch everything every week. It's a lot of work. Especially when half of them come out over the weekend, when I'm generally the most focused on doing my own personal stuff. So, all right, well, let's get into it. Obviously, the first one I'm going to start with is Shangri-La Frontier, because episodes come out on Sunday. It's the first thing I watch in a week. And The one thing I do gotta say about this series is it consistently reminds me of the days when I would like play games with my friends and we would discover exploits and stuff, and we would use the game's programming and bugs to our advantage and like try to get an extra leg up on some of that stuff. It reminds me of that. And in this latest episode, it does show a little bit of that stealth patching that happens in games to try and keep players in check. So in this particular case, Sun Raku is trying to get a bunch of Crystal Scorpion materials. And he finds out that the way he had been farming them wasn't working anymore. So he had to develop an entirely new method using the game's physics engine to try and kill them. It was a very clever episode. I liked it. Still not really like huge into the battle stuff yet, but it's still fun. It's still consistently good, and it just needs that one absolutely like banger episode to send it up to the top. So yeah, that's a thing. Hi Pilgrim, how you doing? Let's see, what's next? Okay. Tying the knot with an Amagami sister. That's what's next on the list. Okay, so this latest episode, I made some more comprehensive notes this week. So if it seems like I'm looking at something, I'm reading back my own notes because I didn't do that before stream. Maybe I should have done that before stream instead of sitting here dicking around reading a novel or something. Anyway, tying the knot with an Amagami sister has consistently been fun and enjoyable. It's still that sort of like harem romance thing going on. But it did do something very interesting with the supernatural aspect of it. We've already seen a little bit of it where, like, the main character, Uryu, was, he had that experience with the oldest sister of the three, where, like, he questioned whether it was all even, like, real or not. And now he had this dream that basically ended up coming true in this latest episode. So the guy who does not believe in gods or any sort of supernatural phenomenon is starting to experience a lot of supernatural phenomenon. But it's done good for the characters, kind of showing you like more of the likable sides of them, especially the middle sister. I always forget her name. The pink-haired bitch. But yeah. That one was actually, it was okay. I can't move Shangri-La Frontier up. This, I think I'm just going to leave there because I don't think it's particularly gotten a ton better. Still on a high from Tuesday. Yeah. I understand. Although I try not to talk election stuff on my stream, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay, so the world's most notorious talker runs the greatest clan. So this episode was a tad bit standard, honestly. There were a lot of like cliches that were used in this particular episode to progress the plot, but it's not terrible. It was still enjoyable. I do like the idea of like Noel having a proper fight of his own and having to deal with the swordsman guy all on his own. And it gives like a good bit of backup to the concept that Noel can still fight on his own. Like he's still a strong person. It's just that he doesn't have all the benefits of like frontline fighters the way the world works. He isn't a frontline quote unquote class like a swordsman or something like that. So he doesn't get all of their benefits, but as a human being, he's still pretty strong and can hold his own in a fight because he knows how to handle himself. So I like it, but is it better than Shangri-La Frontier? No, so it's going to have to stay where it is. So then we're going to talk about Dandadan. So I've been loving Dandadan. It's been doing a really good job adapting the source material, But this episode is not particularly my favorite point of the series. So I wasn't a super huge fan of Ira when she was first introduced in the manga. She gets better as time goes on. But when they first start her out, she's a bitch. I didn't like her. I was like, oh, this character's so annoying. I wish she'd just go away. But this arc and this confrontation is cool because it adds a new member to the cast, a new person who's a part of the quote unquote crew. So it's been fun, but not my favorite point in the series. However, it can only go up from here. Howdy, JM. Oh boy, this one's a bit long. Sorry. Okay. So, yeah. Got to refresh myself on my thoughts because I take these like right after I watch the episode. So, 365 days to the wedding. Honestly, I think this one's going to stay because its writing has been good. It did present some very interesting things, but there's also a huge problem. It's been progressing fairly well for the first 4 to 5 episodes, and then right at the end of the 5th, it decides it's going to start throwing wrenches, and then it really monkeys things up with the whole like divorce sub arc that they've decided to introduce with the coworker and his wife, like this guy who's just like happy-go-lucky, like enjoying married life and having a great time, and all of a sudden his wife presents him with divorce papers. And it wrecks his life. And it feels like it doesn't vibe right with the series. Like it was kind of like chill, not too like stressed out. There wasn't anything like super dramatic happening, and I liked that aspect of it. And this is kind of, it's an interesting way to try and do some character development for the main two, because neither of them really like feels like they fully understand what it means to be married and all that. Sounds like real life, yes. But it was kind of wild though, because the guy who's like presented with divorce papers gets absolutely pissed drunk, and like the whole company ends up like chasing him around a public park while he's acting like a gorilla in the middle of the night, and it was absolutely insane. Enjoyable for various different reasons, but I feel like I would have liked it better if they would have just kept it on one track rather than trying to throw a wrench into the whole relationship thing. Especially now, as there's like a bit of a misunderstanding between forget the character's name, but like the two main characters who are pretending to like they're getting married to avoid a job transfer. There's like some sort of misunderstanding between the two of them that's sort of monkeyed the whole thing up, pun intended. So that I'm going to have to leave right there. This next one, though, is really going to get me in trouble. Dragon Ball Daima. I'm moving back down to okay. I can't, okay? Its latest episode is just okay. I consistently like the fighting, but it's not an enthralling story. I can't get invested in anything that's happening because it's never been like Goku or any of the Dragon Ball characters have been super deep or amazing. And it's nothing that I really cared about out of Dragon Ball as a series. So when it comes to this stuff, I'm not too terribly impressed with Daima. It's also really weird to see people people praise Goku for taking out a bunch of randos when we know that this dude can destroy like cities and planets if he really, really wants to. So it's all over there. It's all over the place. I feel like It's just not my thing. It isn't terrible. I do get some enjoyment out of it, so I will continue watching it, but I am dropping it all the way back down to the bottom because I couldn't care less about it, honestly. It has not been amazing like the Dragon Ball fandom wants to like screech about it being. So now we're going to talk about Trillion Game. This latest episode was actually pretty good. I feel like they did a lot to like present that Gaku is actually like a competent tech guy and he knows what he's doing, and they show how Haru is a really good strategist and how he knows what he's doing and how to win competitions even if they're not in his forte, and how he did all this crazy stuff to set up their win at the competition beforehand, knowing that they were going to be the target of literally every team there. So they do a really good amount of character development, but the one complaint I have is they continually flash forward to the future and show where the two are like properly like successful businessmen. They're like top members of the business world and all of that, and it ruins the suspense. Like it basically just tells you, oh yeah, they're going to succeed here ahead of the like actual success, and it kind of takes away from their actual victory when it happens. So I find that element of it just slightly frustrating, ever so slightly frustrating. So yeah, as far as Trillion Game, I'm actually going to move it up one. It deserves it after that episode. It was very entertaining. Magia Lumiere Co-Limited. I do like that we actually did get a little bit more magical girl action sequences in this one, but the parts of them that I liked were kind of short-lived, and it was still a lot of like corporate stuff, a lot of goofiness and basically fiddling around. However, right at the very end of the episode, we actually do get something to sort of confirm the stakes of like, this is an actual dangerous job that these people are performing. Someone gets like terribly injured right at the end of the episode, and we don't even know if like they're going to live or die or anything, or how bad that the injury actually is. So I think it did a good job with that. This episode, I don't think it deserves to move up because of it. But it didn't do terrible. It holds its spot. I think it's going to stay exactly where it is. Grieving Souls. Let this grieving soul retire. It continues with its gimmick. The latest episode has been pretty chill, but they're kind of building up to the like whole explosive finale or the explosive second half of the series. I feel like there's going to be a lot of action going forward with what they're setting up, particularly the confrontation between Steps and the Akashic Tower. But it's still just this faker dude keeps making the accidentally right plays every single time. And he just wants to get out of trouble, but every time he does something, it leads to resolving major situations that could be huge problems, and he doesn't even realize what he's doing. It's kind of annoying, but at least the episode wasn't terribly insufferable, so it's going to stay exactly where it is. Not a lot of movement this time, just a lot of individual episode recaps. It's kind of how it is tonight. Okay, next one on the list. I'll Be a Villainess Who Goes Down in History. I think it actually had a really, really good episode 6. So I'm moving it up to the top of the okay category because it's still very tropish. It's still the like Otome game stuff, but they did add some elements that I liked. It did finally confront and like show a real world example of how the heroine character Liz, her like naive pacifistic ideology of we should just talk things out and resolve our differences can actually get people killed. She almost got the main character killed because she stopped Alicia from retaliating against her kidnappers. And the kidnapper then saw that there was nothing she could do, and he drew a blade. If someone else hadn't intervened, she probably would have been killed there. On top of that, it also kind of shows that there was a bit of resentment from the heroine towards Alicia over everything that has happened. That's something I kind of predicted might end up being a thing, is there might be a little bit of narcissism and a mask off moment coming. So yeah, I think it did a really good job with episode 6. Now, the next one, Mecha Uday. Actually, I'm jumping this way up. Like way, way up for now. Because episode 6 was an absolute banger. I was expecting the stereotypical betrayal arc that was going to happen, like things were going to go sideways and the main character was going to fall for the trap and all that. No, that's not at all what happened, and they actually did a really good job of resolving that by giving us some character development and some dialogue sections, and said betrayer then decides to go back on what she was planning, and it turns into a whole fight. That is where like it really popped off, is it had some really, really good dynamic action sequences. So character development, it handled its little betrayal arc really well, and the action all came together for a really good episode. It's still cramming, I feel like trying to jam absolutely everything into like a sort of compact season, but this one really did come through for me, and it gave me the feel like I got some like good classic like cartoon kind of vibes from this, the stuff that I grew up with. They aren't like particularly amazing or deep stories, but they're still good and they're fleshed out for what the time slot they have is. So I actually really respect it. I think that one deserves to go all the way up to the top 4 this week. Obviously, we have ReZero's latest episode, and nothing has changed. This is still my top pick for the season. It's been doing an absolutely banger job of covering everything that has been written in the novels. The only complaints I have are particularly to do with the demi-beasts. I expected something a little bit more eldritch out of their design. I'm not particularly happy with the way they look, but for the most part, they are kind of in line with what I would expect out of Tape, considering what you usually see out of the novels. Now, the other thing I did have a problem with, and it did look gorgeous, I'll say that. The animation was great, and visually, it looked good, but there's something about the choreography for when Priscilla first starts wielding the Yang sword to defeat to kill the demi beasts that just didn't look right. It was particularly with the fact that it would use like fast bursts or quick bursts of speed for every like set of movements she would do. So she would do a bunch of attacks, pause, and do a bunch of attacks. Now keep in mind everything else around her is going in slow motion to kind of show that Priscilla is superhuman. So she's moving ridiculously fast, and it would be a bunch of slashes, stop, pose, bunch of slashes, stop, pose. I felt like it was off. I felt like it was a little dumb, but it still did look good. I feel like it just would have been better if you had kept with a consistent set. You had kept the motion speed consistent rather than pausing in there to then go into another set of movements. It just felt wrong. So now we are going to move into Bleach, which I have kept up with. Bleach, the latest episode was good. We got reintroduced to a bunch of characters who are now returning from older arcs of the series. Grimjow and Nell are back, as well as some of the Fullbringers who were not killed or depowered, I guess you could say, at the end of the Fullbringer arc. So it's nice to see some of these characters. I think they did a really good job of making them somewhat likable and showing how like they can combine their powers and actually do something like really super effective. But again, it's just more prep work moving on into like the final confrontation. So now we are finally at the point where the court guard squads are at the royal palace that has been redesigned by Yuhabaha. And it looks like everyone's moving in for like the final battle of the series. It's good. I'm more excited what's coming after this. And then to finally wrap it up, Orb. So I watched 2 more episodes of Orb. I am now on episode 5. And I gotta say that I'm actually very intrigued by this. And I am going to push this all the way back up here. And why is that? Because episode 4 starts out with a really, really good duel scene. And when I say that, I mean the animation is good, the artwork is good. But not only that, it's interestingly historically accurate. They use parrying daggers and rapiers and stuff like that. I liked everything that they did for that scene. And then from there, it's more storytelling and stuff to sort of set up the progression of the study of heliocentrism. It does get a little bit antagonistic towards religious beliefs, which I can tolerate, but not terribly a huge fan of. And other than that, I mean, I don't really have many things to say about those 2 episodes other than they looked good. I think the story's been progressing pretty well. Everything's been fairly accurate to the time period. And it hasn't been too terribly antagonistic over religious beliefs, which is something I would usually expect. Otherwise, I don't think there is any other updates to make to this list. So not a whole lot of movement, but the ones that did move actually moved somewhat significantly. Is my camera focusing properly? Okay. So yeah, that is this week's recap. So we are going to move on to the news. And I talked about this at the beginning of the stream, but we're looking at some censorship attempts coming out of the US, particularly over manga done by card companies who are threatening to not process payments for anything that they don't like, pretty much. So let's bring this up. This is the first article of the night and the first article on the subject. So, out of print manga archive founded by Love Hina creator Ken Akamatsu shut doors after credit card companies refused payment processing services due to their hosting of adult content. Now this comes to us by Founding into Comics by Spencer Bakuli. Just to throw out some credit for anyone listening. In a devastating blow to both artistic freedom and artistic preservation, the aptly named online manga archive, Manga Library Z, has sadly announced that due to credit card companies refusing to provide them with online payment processing services due to their hosting of adult content, they have been left with no other choice but to shutter the doors completely. And you know what's frustrating about this is I guarantee you these companies would have no problem with you paying stuff to the hub or to, say, a hentai site. I don't think they'd have any problem with you paying those kinds of sites. But for some reason, these manga sites are a problem because they have adult content. So, founded by Love Hina mangaka Ken Akamatsu in 2011 under the original name J. Kami, said manga archive serves, or rather served, as a repository for both out-of-print manga and self-published doujinshi books, which it would host and monetize only after seeking permission from a given work's creator. Series that found a home on Manga Library Z included Yuki Aoki's Naniwa Kinyudo, The Way of the Osaka Loan Shark, Mai Tsurigina and Tadashi Kato's The Chef, and Akamatsu's aforementioned Love Hina. But, as noted above, it was not the site's hosting of old manga that drew the ire of credit card companies, but rather the hosting of an extensive collection of adult erotica as spread across the manga and doujinshi libraries. To this end, the trouble for Manga Library Z began in October when, at the beginning of the month, the site administration reported via an official statement published to their website, that the payment agency with which we have a merchant agreement notified us that the agreement will be terminated at the end of October due to handling of adult content. Again, I guarantee you that these companies are still processing payments to Pornhub, to OnlyFans, and to all sorts of other shit, you fucking hypocrites. After repeated discussions, we were unable to overturn the notice, and although it was a difficult decision, we have decided to accept the termination. They continued as machine translated by Deep L. In accordance with this decision, we will stop processing premium membership registrations at the end of October. Also, credit card and Docomo payments will no longer be available for processing PDF purchases from November. The admins added, only BitCash payments will be accepted for PDF purchases. We apologize for the inconvenience caused by this sudden notice. We are internally reviewing the measures to be taken in the future. We appreciate your understanding. Unfortunately for the site and its users, a little less than a month later, the administration will reveal that they had decided to shut down Manga Library Z site due to the difficulty in returning profits to authors and operating the site in the future. Although Manga Library Z has made a group of rare works, mainly manga that have already gone out of print and have not yet been digitized, available again for free, and as a returning advertising revenue to the authors for more than a decade. In recent years, we have had increasingly difficult dealings with payment services such as credit card companies. They explained of their decision. 14 years ago, when manga artist Ken Akamatsu launched the predecessor service, J. Kami, ebooks were not yet very common, and there were only a few services where manga could be read on the internet, they recalled. In this context, J. Kami was the pioneer of an e-book service that allowed anyone to read manga for free. Really, the big tragedy in all this is that it's a huge blow to like the preservation of media. And the one thing that I keep saying across this is that these guys are probably fucking hypocrites. You could probably still use a card to pay for porn So why specifically this site? At the same time, we also feel responsible for continuing to operate the site with the thoughts and feelings of so many people on our shoulders. We can only regret that we have to shut down the site. Going further into detail regarding the battle with their payment processors, the Manga Library Z staff asserted we were notified by the settlement agent last month that we have no choice but to terminate all settlement service contracts at the end of October. We discussed this matter with the settlement agent as soon as possible, but the decision was made by the credit card company, and we were already in a situation where we could not reverse the decision. We made a series of urgent financial calculations and discussions and discussed the future operations of the site until the very last minute, but we decided to suspend the site because we felt that continuing to operate the site in such a way that we would not be able to return profits to authors would ultimately betray the trust of both authors and users. We apologize for the decision. So basically, we would continue operating it, but we don't want to stab the people who have been nice to us in the back. What honorable... I'm assuming that this is Love Hina. Yep, that makes sense. However, despite their cessation of the manga hosting service, Manga Library Z team closed out their announcement assuring the readers that the J Comic Terrace Inc., which operates Manga Library Z, is also involved in the wholesale business of providing works to the stores of other companies. And we will continue to focus on the wholesale business in the future in order to return profits to participating authors. So it looks like they are still selling like looks like they're still selling like tankobon and stuff. But they don't particularly their e stuff and their overseas stuff is going to be a huge issue. Further, they also declared that they would continue to work with all parties concerned to find a way to restart the site. Okay. Although it is still only a narrow path, we will consider the possibility of becoming a nonprofit organization, crowdfunding, and so on. We hope that the day will come when we will be able to deliver our manga to you again. So, yeah, I mean, this is just arbitrary bullshit, if you ask me. All because of quote-unquote adult content that I guarantee you they still allow through other means. Yeah, we're not done, unfortunately. I apologize if you are hearing that obnoxious idiot over there who won't quiet down. I apologize if you hear the other person talking. He's just a fucking retard. Okay, so this is another one of the companies being affected by this card issue. Very important announcement from Melon Books. Dear customers, we are very sorry to announce that Visa Master Credit Card cannot be used for shopping on and after December 19th, 2024. For more information, please check below the Japanese, or the statement is in Japanese. So basically, these card companies are continuously refusing to accept any sort of payment or accept any sort of transactions. They won't process any transactions that involve manga they don't like. Gee. And now we actually have a proper response from Ken Akamatsu himself, which apparently I hit the wrong button, and instead of... Let's go here. Share this. All right. So here we actually have Ken Akamatsu's response. So translated by Twitter's AI, I guess. JKami, which I launched 14 years ago and is now known as Manga Library Z, has decided to shut down the site on November 26th. I have already retired from management, but this announcement was written on behalf of the company. First, let me explain the service itself. Manga Library Z is an advertising revenue-based site that distributes ebooks, mainly out of print manga, for free and returns advertising revenue to the authors. Server fees and other costs are mainly covered by paid premium membership fees. The direct cause of the site being down is, or this time, was the notice from the payment processing company that they were terminating all payment services, including payment methods other than credit card payments. All credit cards, including JCB, were suddenly unavailable, and all other payment methods except BitCash were also unavailable. In addition, payments for months that had already passed were withheld, and since no premium membership fees were received for that period, we were in a situation where we could not even cover the server costs. So they even withheld the funds that were actually paid to the company. Now that's fucking scummy. And it sounds like this is coming straight from the clearinghouse, not just the card companies. After careful consideration by Manga Library Z, management staff, they came to the decision to shut down the site, judging that it is impossible to operate on BitCash revenue alone. Even if we have an alternative payment agency, there is a possibility that the same phenomenon will occur again. We want to avoid getting by deleting only some of the works. We deeply apologize for the short period between the notice and the withholding of payment, which resulted in us giving in to the companies that control payment services. But this time, on what basis will they declare the suspension of payment services? How much of a penalty will be imposed, and for how long will it last? What specific workarounds were available? We were able to obtain accurate information, such as that provided by the person involved, which we believe will lead to more legitimate investigations and interviews. A long time ago, Love Hina was banned from Apple's ebook store, but was later reinstated. Even now, we often cite this experience as a concrete example to protect freedom of expression, and we use it effectively. In recent years, payment services have issued unprecedentedly strong conditions and penalties. If these are left unchecked, it is certain that they will become a problem not only for ebooks but for the entire Japanese content industry. As the party that has actually been forced into closure, we will work out more precise countermeasures. We would appreciate your support. So for now, we'll put that down. So that is basically everything that I have scrounged up as to what is happening with the situation. Effectively, clearinghouse and card companies have decided that they just arbitrarily do not want to support the distribution of this material. So I'm actually a bit curious myself. And I'm going to do a little bit of a search here. I don't need this tab. We're going to pull up Mal. We're going to go here. Research. In the manga. What are the tags on Love Hina? Ecchi. Okay. Somehow unsurprised. So it is said that if a couple gets into University of Tokyo together, they will live happily ever after. However, for Keitaro Urashima, Tokyo is a distant dream. After failing the entrance exam twice already, he decided to stay at his grandmother's inn in Tokyo in order to prepare for his third attempt. He is therefore surprised when he finds out that not only has his grandmother gone on a long vacation, but the inn has also become the Hinata house, an all-girls dormitory. Okay. Yeah, that sounds like an ecchi plot. Unfortunately for Keitaro, a series of misunderstandings during his first visit will leave him with 5 untrusting tenants. But when Haruka Urashima, his aunt who works at the dorm, brings up that he is supposedly a U Tokyo student, the girls' impressions of him quickly change, and they reluctantly allow him to stay, feeling guilty about the lie. He slowly gets to know these neighbors. So basically none too stand outish harem plot. Ecchi. The tag says ecchi, and that could range from anything from just like an abundance of panty shots to full on titties. But even then, like, I'm assuming when they're talking about this stuff, when they're talking about this site, I don't assume that they are concerned about like the distribution of lolicon because, well, one, that is, I think that is actually illegal here in the United States because lolicon is classified as something that rhymes with wild corn in the United States, and it is illegal to purchase. That would be one thing, but we're talking about a site that is, we're likely talking about something that is just ecchi. Now, they do say that there are a lot of doujins and stuff. I think the company might consider some of that a little bit like morally reprehensible. I would actually like to see like particularly what the complaints are. Like what in particular are they objecting to clearing the purchases for? That is one question I think does need to be asked. Because if it is something that's actually objectionable, okay, well then maybe, yeah. But like as far as I understand, like this is just a straight up like this is just a distributor for manga that's been out of print. Some of it might be a little bit ecchi, you know, but Amazon, Crunchyroll, plenty of other places have sold stuff just like that. I mean, I can go on my shelf and I can point out a couple of things that I bought off of Crunchyroll that are fairly explicit. Okay? Hell, do we need to talk about the fact that Berserk is explicit? One of those volumes of My Dress Up Darling has a shot of Marin Kitagawa with her tits out. That's a legit thing. That's in there. Crunchyroll and all them, they do legitimately sell some of that stuff. Okay? And there would be no problem if you paid with a credit card for explicit figurines. You can get stuff like that. And I'm talking about like full nude, like BDSM kind of figurines and stuff that you can find on the internet. Trust me. I have gone looking for specific things and stumbled into dark places that I just don't want to ever go back to. Because apparently people who collect figurines like their degenerate stuff. And I swear to God, if I ever have to see a naked ass Satoru Gojo again, I am. Oh, God. I might just neck rope myself, okay? So ultimately, all I can conclude right now is this just seems like bullshit. Like straight up bullshit. There is one out that I think I could give the processors if there was legitimate wild corn issues, okay? But right now, it just seems like they don't want to distribute stuff like Food Wars and Love Hina. Which I'd be curious to see who else is. I'm actually really curious now. If I find this on if I find Love Hina on playbooks, that'd be fucking interesting. So let's go to shop. Love Hina. Yeah, you can purchase Love Hina on the Google Play Store. So they don't have a problem with explicit stuff. So it begs the question, what specifically do they have an issue with that Manga Library Z was not a fan of? The only thing I could think of would be Lolicon, which might be a bit of an issue. But who knows? We'll ultimately have to look into that when we actually get to that point. I haven't seen anything that has specifically said that it is that material, although they didn't ever say what the actual issue was that like you would think that Akamatsu would and Manga Library Z by proxy would have stated what parts of their content were actually the problem. So that leads me to suspect it's probably doujinshi and probably doujinshi that are illegal in the United States. But here we go. Continuing on with this topic. Nair creator Yoko Taro voices concern over rise in credit card companies refusing to handle adult content. If they have control of the clearinghouse, they can even use it to control speech in other countries. Even the advocate for freedom of expression, particularly of the risque variety, Drakengard and Nair series creator Yoko Taro has admitted to feeling more than a little uncomfortable with the potential threat of free speech posed by credit card companies' growing refusal to process payments for adult content. Again, why do we not hear about these companies like refusing to process payments for, say, OnlyFans or for the Hub? Taro spoke out against the rising phenomenon on November 5th. I'm actually curious about that. That's something I do want to actually check really quick because that could be an interesting point. Okay, so OnlyFans uses Stripe as their payment processor. Interesting. So yeah. I wonder how all that's going to go. It looks like it'll take probably a little bit more digging than just a quick Google search to figure that out. So I'm going to leave that subject for now. Either way. Taro spoke out against the rising phenomenon on November 5th via his personal Twitter account. His mind ostensibly turned to the subject thanks to the recent news that publicly accessible out-of-print manga archive, Manga Library Z, would be shutting down after various credit card companies dropped them as a client due to their hosting various erotic comics. Credit card payment companies are refusing to accept legitimate adult content payments, wrote the eccentric video game director as machine translated by Deep L. Regulations beyond the law have been in place in publishing and other fields, but the fact that a payment processor, which is involved in the entire distribution infrastructure, can do so at its own discretion seems to me to be a different level of danger. If they have control of the clearinghouse, they can use it to control speech in other countries. proceeding to head off those bad faith critics who would dismiss his concerns being rooted in nothing more than perversion. Taro would affirm in a follow-up tweet that his personal position was actually born out of fear that such power structures could eventually have very real consequences for people worldwide. Yes. That is a legitimate fear to have. I get the sense that this is not just a matter of adult regulation or freedom of expression, he affirmed, but a security hole for democracy as a whole. As noted above, Taro does not specify what specific events or persons prompted his tweet. Given their timing, it's almost certain that the aforementioned shuttering of Manga Library Z was at the forefront of his mind when he wrote them. So all credit card companies, including JCB, suddenly became unusable, and all other payment methods except Bitcoin. Okay, so we already read that. That's the official statement from Ken Akamatsu. So we've read all of that. I just read that. All right. So ultimately, I guess it kind of comes down to what particular kind of content we're dealing with here, okay? If it were just an issue of, say, oh, well, they don't want to be dealing with Lovely Kondo Jinshi, maybe I would be able to understand that, because personally, I wouldn't want anything to do with that either. Just a personal issue of mine. I find that stuff as reprehensible as furry porn, okay? But if it's stuff like Love Hina, or you're talking about My Dress Up Darling, that kind of stuff, well, then that makes you fucking hypocritical, because I can pay just fine with my cards and everything for plenty of different stuff. I can still buy some of this stuff on I can still buy some of this stuff. I can still watch some of this stuff. I can still pay for all this stuff. I wonder how many of these processors are perfectly okay with OF, with the hub, with other adult content sites. That is like one of the big questions I need. Like two big questions. What's the actual objection? What is their stance on other forms of adult content? If it's just that, oh, well, it's adult content, fuck off. Seriously. Fuck off. Especially if it's not illegal stuff. Still, it's sad to see Manga Library Z go, because once some of these things are out of print, they become impossible to get. I apologize if you hear that retard again. Let's just move into the final thing and be done for the night. So I've talked about Johnny Somali quite a bit. Well, not quite a bit, but I hate the guy. Nuisance streamers like him and Jack Doherty and Neon, people who just exist to cause drama on the internet, I fucking hate them. Okay? Like, I loathe your existence if this is you. So Johnny Somali apologizes for controversial South Korean streams as he faces jail time. Yeah, you're apologizing because you're a little bitch and you got caught. You stupid fucking motherfucker. So, controversial streamer Johnny Somali has apologized to the people of South Korea as he faces 10 years in jail for his antics. Yeah, you're just afraid of being punished. He is currently unable to leave South Korea as he is being investigated for drug use, a crime that could result in significant jail time given the country's strict laws. The streamer, who also caused chaos in Japan and Israel, was permanently banned from Kick for his troublesome content after frequently getting into trouble with the law. Yeah, that's been a consistent problem with Twitch or Kick, and I'm glad that they're cracking down on it. Not Twitch, Kick. However, that hasn't stopped him from continuing his ways on other streaming platforms as he ventured to South Korea in September. Notably, Somali sparked outrage by kissing and performing inappropriate actions on the Statue of Peace, a monument to victims of sexual slavery. Yeah, that's not a good look, bro. That's a terrible freaking idea. What is your problem? I am a young person. I want to grow as a... Oh, geez. Once the police and even the South Korean parliament got involved, the streamer faced charges of narcotic use, a crime that comes with a maximum penalty of 10 years in the slammer. On November 7th, Somali apologized to all the people of South Korea, claiming he didn't mean to hurt their pride. I'm a young man. I want to grow as a man. I made a mistake. And I think when you make a mistake in life, you need to own up to it. So I apologize. I will no longer talk about your statue or touch it ever again. Well, you still need to get hit with the long arm of the law, buddy, because you have a long list of shit you have done that, frankly, is just unacceptable. I mean, this guy has been a public nuisance, and the fact that the internet has enabled people like these to just fuck around and be awful and make mountains of money. I hate it so much that these people get rewarded for this kind of behavior. And it's the same with like pranks, like people like setting up like a fake situation and then blaming it on their kid and like freaking out and like yelling at them like, fuck you. That's not a prank. And this behavior isn't funny. It isn't entertaining. It isn't cool. You're just a fatherless fucking jackass who decided that he craved attention and was going to be the most obnoxious person on the internet and try and generate hate over it. So I'm glad that that dude's getting fucking locked away. Good riddance. I shouldn't celebrate too soon. We don't know what actually is going to happen to him. I hope the dude gets locked away. He deserves it. I mean, Korean streamers already put out a bounty on his head, found him, and beat the shit out of him, from what I understand. So, yeah. All right, I guess I'm going to call it there. Kind of a short one tonight. There's not really a whole lot else to talk about. So, for the time being, if you want to know more about me, well, you can check out Crimson Law. I just put out a video there today talking about doing some video essay stuff. Hope you'll check it out. Otherwise, I post on Mondays and Wednesdays. Mondays is my recap segment, and Wednesdays is my initial impressions segment. And I'm going to try and do Fridays regularly for the video essays as well. So that will be over at Crimson Law. You can find that. That's my main channel. And I would hope you would sub and support over there. I would appreciate it. You can also follow me at Crimson Lawson on Twitter and watch me scream into the void and make stupid jokes and shit. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed. Hope you have a good night. And I'll play us out now.